which includes a number of public hearings, so we will proceed to those matters. The first matter is a public hearing involving case number MSUP 25-01. This is a special use permit application from Chowan County ABC Board to do a minor subdivision at 516 Virginia Road at the property further identified by PIN number 7805-00-36-9161. I would first like to begin by letting the public and also other members of the town council know that Councilman Turner and Councilman Miller have conflicts in this matter because they sit on the Chowan County ABC Board. We have been advised by our attorney that that does represent a conflict of interest, which should cause them to be recused. And typically, when there is a recusal that is necessary, we ask the councilman or councilmen involved if they voluntarily recuse themselves without a motion, second, and vote. So, Councilman Miller, do you recuse yourself from this public hearing?
I do, Mayor.
And Councilman Turner, do you recuse yourself from this public
I
hearing?
do, Mayor.
Okay, so we've got those recusals, and what we're left with is Councilman Sellers is not here tonight, so we will not be able to have a vote or deliberation on this. Our attorney has advised us that we can go through the presentation of staff reports and the public hearing, if any, on this, and then at the end, I would seek a motion, which the two of you can vote on, a motion to table it until February 11th. So with that being said and that understanding of how we're going to proceed, I'd first like to call upon our Assistant Town Manager, Dwayne Wilton, for his presentation of the staff report in connection with this.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. This is a application, as you stated, from the Chowan County ABC Board to do a minor subdivision. Because it is in the commercial highway zone, any minor or major subdivision has to come as a major special use permit. It's pretty sure, excuse me, it's pretty straightforward. As you have the maps in front of you, the subdivision would not create any nonconformities or anything. It would meet the minimum of 30,000 square feet for the commercial highway zone. To the north of this subdivision, there is what you would call an undeveloped street that to get back to that back parcel, not been maintained, but the new owners of that would be maintaining that going forward. So you'll be voting on those 5 criteria tonight. The proposed use is compatible with the future land use plan. The Edenton future land use plan identifies this parcel in the surrounding area as suitable for commercial, so they will both stay as a commercial highway zoned district. In your packet, you see the future land use map and a star there indicating where it is located. Staff does find the proposed use to be in conformity with the Edenton Chowan land use plan. And I've been in conversation with some of the, architects that are going to be in place going forward with the, renovations of the ABC store and all that. So they know that, any utility installation connections, drainage, sewer, detention is going to be borne by the developer and installed to NCDEQ regulations, and they will be having to abide by the UDO requirements when it comes to facade signage, infrastructure, sidewalks, landscaping, and street lighting. So that's the presentation of the staff report.
Okay, is there anyone here from the applicant? And if so, come forward and let us know if there's anything that you would like us to know.
I'm Renee Sawyer.
Okay.
No, they just trying to, we're putting, like I say, the guy's buying it in the back, sea gravel, so he can just, put his luck on and stuff, so, but nothing's special about it.
And Dwayne, that's all it is. We're at a subdivision, just a subdivision of the property. We're not asking for any rezoning or any.
No, sir. They're basically separating the property into half. I believe each parcel would have 80,000 plus square feet, with the minimum in commercial highway being 30,000. So they're well above what the minimum would be in density terms.
And the halves would be basically a front half and a back half.
Yes.
Is that correct?
With access from that undeveloped street from the north.
That's what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have in the,
You have it.
That's, we already have that.
Okay. I don't have anything.
Okay, well, as I mentioned before, let's first see if there, I didn't see that anybody, signed up for the public hearing on this particular action, but I want to double check. Is there anybody here from the general public that would like to speak on, item 1A? Okay. With there being no public hearing and based on our public comment, based on our attorney's advice, the question and answer from council and the consideration and deliberation should be tabled until we do have a quorum, once we accept the recusal of Mr. Turner and Mr. Miller. So therefore, at this time, we will not be considering the 5 items that we normally do in this type of hearing, but I would entertain a motion to table this until February 11th. The purpose of the tabling would be for further questions and answers, further deliberation and consideration when we have a quorum.
so moved.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of tabling this matter until February 11th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the tabling of case number 25-01 will be tabled until February 11th, and at this time, I would close the hearing on this particular matter. Next, I'd like to open the public hearing on the next case that we have before us. This case number is RZ 25-01. This is a rezoning application from Heritage LLC requesting a rezoning of a portion of property located at 110 Whiteman Lane from SC Shopping Center to CH Commercial Highway. That particular property is further identified by PIN number 780500554610. At this time, we would proceed with the presentation of staff reports by Assistant Town Manager Dwayne Wilson. Dwayne?
Yes, sir, this was a fun one. Heritage LLC application, looking to rezone from shopping center, which has a minimum density of 5 acres, to commercial highway, which has a minimum density of 30,000 acres. This is the 4.5 acre tip of the parcel located at the intersection of Whiteman Lane and Virginia Road. It would be congruent with what you see along Virginia Road, past the Fire Ford, Wendy's and all that are all zoned commercial highway. Everything in the back at this point will stay shopping center as we wait to see any development activity back there. So that was one of the biggest reasons that applicant wanted to seek rezoning, is because a lot of developers, even though it fits the shopping center zoning, the 5 acre minimum is an issue because not a lot of places need 5 acres to develop. This particular one only needed for 2 developments 4.5 acres. So it didn't match the shopping center definition, so we looked for alternate routes going forward. But the existing land use is shopping center. As you see here, minimum lot size is 5 acres, minimum lot width is 200 feet. Proposed zoning land use classification is a commercial highway. It's a minimum lot size of 30,000 and a minimum lot width of 100. You'll see in your packet the star representing where this particular request is coming from. The request, in my opinion, fits the area in which it is, because you're not changing. Shopping center is designated in the land use plan as commercial as well as commercial highway. Staff has determined that the application from Heritage LLC for the zoning map amendment is complete and is compatible with the 2018 land use plan. The zoning would result in no inconsistency with the existing and future land use classifications of commercial for the subject property. the staff report.
Okay, next, we will move to a presentation from the applicant, if any applicant representative is here. Okay, please come forward, just identify yourself.
My name is Brad Mercer. I don't really have a little presentation. I think Dwayne's presentation kind of summed it up. Our goal here is to take this 4.5 acres and turn it into 2 different parcels of commercial use. So that's why we want to do the rezoning request. So happy to answer any questions you might have of me. Otherwise, I appreciate your willingness to hear our request.
I did have a question. Dwayne had mentioned that in today's market, developers and retailers are looking for something closer to 30,000 square foot as opposed to a minimum of 5. Is that what you're finding also?
Well, for my use, yes. I mean, because I'm looking for 2 smaller parcels. I mean, even at ours, I think 2.25 acres each. That's pretty large for what we're planning. But yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of the applicant?
I'm not sure whether the applicant, but have we looked into a traffic study, I guess with both projects, so the ABC store as well as any type of future developments going there? Would that be advantageous to?
Well, on this, this will have to go before TRC, is that right? And at that stage, that's where traffic studies are
We had,
looked at.
I'm sorry, but we had already signed to get a traffic study done for our development, as well as the development behind us. So that was approved as of yesterday. So,
And the applicant will come back before you for a major special use permit when it is determined, or what the development is gonna be. So there will be another public hearing on that as well as a subdivision as well.
that's right. Yeah, we're finalizing uses right now, so we will have that completed yet.
I've got one for Dwayne too. As far as like where, I know you can't have a curb cut coming off of, the highway. I mean, and then, so I guess would everything go in through Whiteman Lane?
Yeah, and that's what's gonna be identified in the traffic impact study. Every drawing I've seen has had all development coming on Whiteman Lane, whether that needs a curb cut, a turn lane, a median, stoplight. That's all gonna be determined in the traffic impact assessment that's gonna be completed.
But there won't be anything between Whiteman Lane and the bypass.
From the drawings I've seen, I haven't.
Our request to DOT is going to be some sort of access off of Virginia Road into the development, between the ramp and.
So how do we control that? I mean, how do we have anything we can do to do that?
I could speak to DOT and figure out the best routes.
I would think
I'll get
that would be,
contact
I mean, I would think by the
information.
time you're coming off I'm just thinking traffic wise, if you're coming off and it's sort of, how many feet across is it?
150.
I mean, it looks like we're getting into another situation like we got at Walgreens where there are all these end things and nobody knows which ways to go and all of that.
And I think we'll be offered some alternatives with that.
But I mean, do we have control over that? Once we rezone it, or do we?
There will be more things coming before you.
I get all that, but the developers normally do what they wanna do. It doesn't matter what we say unless we have some tool to say they can't do this. Do we, that's what I asked, do we have a tool to say that these things have to go, all the ingress and rezoning contingent on all the ingress coming off of Whiteman Lane?
Will that come with a special use permit or?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the special use conditions can be placed there, but we will work really closely with our works as well as PD, and NCD.
We can say that then. I mean, I'm fine with the rezoning, but I just wanna make sure we're not,
Conditions can be placed, within the major special use permit.
CBS, let me say that one more time, they told us to do something and they didn't. And we didn't get no recourse, so I'm telling you.
Take over that landscaping too, and then a few other things.
Well, I understand all that, but I'm just, I didn't know whether this is the point we bring that up or later.
Is there a timeline between the rezoning approval and special use? Do you have any idea?
Because not only agenda tonight, so there's some time to sit down there.
Is there a timeline
Between
requesting?
after rezoning and, a major special use?
That would be the applica, yeah, whenever, we'll work through the traffic impact, so I think that was the
Okay.
biggest thing that we wanted to get answered first. We'll be working on site plans, I guess, coming up and getting all that information gathered. But we can move as fast as we can get all the information.
Yeah, it's really on a case-by-case basis, and he has some idea of who he wants to come here.
Okay.
And, you know, you gotta go back to them and say, hey, with the rezoning passed or it didn't pass.
I
And
mean,
then,
I'm for it, I think it's fine,
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
just wanna
know.
make sure we don't get a, you know, if the traffic study says we don't need it, that's fine, you know.
Yeah, I think that the condition part on the major special use permit is gonna be in place for that.
that's where we get up, that's where we are able to
Yeah.
exercise our control, over certain aspects of it.
What kind of stores you looking to bring here?
What's that?
That's the elephant in the room.
We have some things that we're working on, once we
Grocery
apply
store,
for
grocery store?
that would not be part of mine. Once we identify our uses, you'll see them when we apply for special use permit.
Okay, I think that's the people are looking for.
Anything else?
Anything else? Okay, I think that does it. Thank you for being here. Yep, thank you. The next portion of this public hearing is the hearing from the public. As I look at our sign-up sheet, I do not see that anybody has signed up, but is there anybody that wants to speak on agenda item 1B? Please come forward at this time. Okay, we're not seeing anyone, so I'll close the public hearing at this time, and we'll move to the section where we ask further questions, if any we have, among ourselves, and also comments and deliberations among ourselves. Anybody have any comments or questions? I think it's, Sambo and Craig and Elton can verify this. It's a piece of property that we've looked at for a long time and hoped that somebody would eventually come along and want to do something with it. So it's been a long time coming. It is one of the pieces that we do have available for development. So if it passes, I'm very excited about what the possibilities may bring. But if there are no further questions or further deliberation, we will move to the actual consideration of the rezoning application. You guys will recall from recently, we've got 4 questions that we have to answer in the affirmative if this rezoning passes, and then we have to have a vote on the ultimate question of final approval of the rezoning. We will need to handle these separately. Unfortunately, I know that gets tedious, but I will entertain a motion that the rezoning will not endanger the public health or safety.
So moved.
We got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any further comment on this particular question? There being none, all in favor of a finding that this rezoning will not endanger the public health or safety, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The second question is, and I will seek a motion that the rezoning will not injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Got a motion and second. All in favor of a finding that this rezoning will not injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next question that we will have to consider, and I'll entertain a motion that the rezoning will be in harmony with the area in which it is located.
So moved.
Got a motion, second?
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor of a finding that this rezoning will be in harmony with the area in which it is located, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The fourth question, and I'll seek a motion along these lines, is that this rezoning will be in conformity with the land use plan, thoroughfare plan, or other plan officially adopted by the town council. Do I have a motion as to that finding?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of that finding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we've got the 4 requisite findings that we would need to move to a vote on the rezoning itself. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the rezoning in case number RZ 25-01 of the property located at 110 Whiteman Lane from SC Shopping Center to CH Commercial Highway. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Sorry.
We got a motion and second. All in favor of the rezoning, as previously explained, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that rezoning does pass, and look forward to what you bring to us next.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we close that agenda item, and I need to open the public hearing on the next case that we have. This case is identified as case number TA 24-01. This is a proposed text amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, amending Article 12 entitled Density and Dimensional Regulations, minimum lot size in the RA Residential Agriculture District. And the text amendment that is proposed is changing the minimum lot widths to 200 feet and changing the minimum lot size of 1 acre. Is that correct, Mr. Good?
Yes.
Good, did I explain that correctly?
That's right there.
At this time, like we did with the previous two, we'll call upon Dwayne Wilton. Come forward, Dwayne.
Yes, sir. This is a text amendment from Ms. Caroline Small, her mother's here today. If there are any questions, so Ms. Small came to me, and I got looking into it and doing some research into some other municipalities. Right now, the way it sits, if your property is zoned residential agriculture, then you have a minimum lot size of 5 acres. Looking into it, there were some pros and cons of that. One of the cons that I saw was pretty big, that we were making people cut out 5 acres of family farm to put move a daughter back or a son back home. So it was taken away from the farm. So I got, like I said, doing some research into it. That's included in your packet of similar municipalities, and I couldn't find any other municipality where that was the case, where the minimum size was 5 acres. So we went in front of the planning board, and the planning board made a recommendation to council to include in the town's unified development ordinance, Article 12, density and dimensional regulations, that residential agriculture zoning district can have a minimum lot size of 1 acre and a minimum lot width of 200 feet if the lot borders a state or town maintained road and is used for residential purposes as allowed in Article 10 permissible uses. I think having that exception would, at this time, not have to have a complete overhaul of our dimensional regulations, having that particular thing about being on a state or town maintained road and used for residential purposes. So that's the proposal from the text amendment. I'm here to answer any questions.
Dwayne, this text amendment, would this apply just to this property, or would this be a change in general to our requirements for residential agriculture?
There'll be a change throughout town, throughout the ETJ as well as town limits.
And when you surveyed other municipalities and counties, you found that they had something similar to what you're proposing here, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I pulled some information from Chowan County. Their minimum is 40,000 square feet, which is right around that acre mark. Their district, similar to the RA district for us, is A1. So 40,000 there. Let's see, there's a few other ones in here, but Plymouth County is 43,000 square feet, which is right around that 1 acre threshold. Pulled some from Elizabeth City, as well as Hertford, and their RA district was a minimum lot area of 20,000 square feet. So this proposal would be double of what another municipality close to us is currently.
And the amendment as proposed could lead to higher density development?
Yeah, it would still be considered low density because of the acreage, as it's defined in the land use plan. High density would be somewhere between 8 to 12 units per acre. This would be 1 unit per acre, so it would still be a low residential density. And we see it, if you go in that strip, going outside of town, most of them are right at that 1 acre mark. I guess that was done before the new density and dimensional regulations came about, but there's tons of examples in town.
And you have a recommendation that you're in favor of this?
Yeah, I'd like I make a recommendation that, the minimum lot size of 1 acre, the minimum lot width of 200, as long as it borders a state maintained road and is used for residential purposes. And those residential purposes are identified in our permissible use table. I don't believe, multifamily is allowed or anything, I think it's single family detached dwellings.
All right, does anybody on council have any questions or comments? Any questions of Dwayne?
No concerns for the planning board, is that right?
There was no concerns. My biggest concern was a complete overhaul of it because it was mentioned so many different times with having that exception in there about the town or state maintained road and being used for permissible uses. I think that can be put in as an exception to the rest of it and keep RA at 5 acres unless they need that.
And the planning board pretty much went along with that, did I?
Yes.
Okay, any other? Sounds good, thank you, Dwayne. Next, we would welcome public comment on this. We have one person that has signed up, Wanda Small.
That's the applicant.
Okay,
mother, yes.
any further comment?
I'll just say that I'm a fourth generation owner of this property, and my grandparents deeded an acre lot to each one of her 4 children. Because of deaths or whatever, that's changed hands, but like Dwayne said, if you look at the property, there's already 1 acre lots. So I was really thankful that my daughter wanted to move here, but I was surprised that it said I had to do 5 acres. And so I'm hoping that you will consider this so that I can give her an acre to an acre and a half so that she can reside on our family farm.
Where's the property located?
I'm sorry,
Where's the property located?
It's in the ETJ.
Yokoham Road and 105 Hops Lane, about a mile outside town.
Right near, Soundside and 32.
Yeah.
As you're headed out of town. Yeah, it's still in the ETJ, yeah. John Mitchner, did you have some comments you'd like to offer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, come forward.
I discovered coming in tonight that our community is in 2 different time zones.
John, this is a public hearing on the request that we're discussing. It's,
Prior to Teapot,
no, we're not on that yet.
that's what I thought I heard.
That's
not
not-
too long ago.
No, you're gonna hear that next. We're on agenda item C. So we'll invite you up as we move to agenda item D, which is the one that I think you're interested in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll call you back up.
And time zones voted.
Okay. We'll call you back up. Any other persons that wish to speak on this particular agenda item? Not seeing any, so we will close the public comment and public hearing on that and move to further town council questions, answers, and deliberations. Any other comments on this? Any comments?
I think it's
Okay.
nice to have a child move back to the homeland. This is good.
And I've got good news for you on this particular matter. We do not have to go through the 5 questions. It's just a straight up yes or no on the text amendment. So I would entertain a motion to approve the text amendment as proposed by Dwayne Wilton.
So moved.
Second. All in favor of this text amendment, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
Any opposed? And that text amendment carries. Next, we need to have a public hearing on the economic development funding allocation as it relates to Project Teapot. Council will recall that we voted back in December to approve the expenditure of $289,000 towards some of the developmental and soft costs of Project Teapot. We approved that conditioned upon a public hearing and also conditioned upon our attorney and others getting together and ironing out the language of that particular agreement, and so that's why it is before us today. At this time, I call upon Corey Gooden and also Chess Chesson to give the staff report on this public hearing.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council. Thank you for considering the economic development appropriation for Project Teapot. Project Teapot is still a confidential project at the moment, as we're waiting on 1NC, or consideration of the 1NC grant, which is a competitive grant from the state. But Project Teapot is teed up, not to use many puns, to bring 155 jobs over 5 years to Edenton, which will bring in about $8.5 million in payroll, an estimated $1.2 million in retail spending downtown, and create a diversification of jobs for local residents and unskilled laborers in downtown. That's over a 5-year period. Also, with these funds, it will allow us to continue our pre-development and pre-construction work for Project Teapot. The reason Main Street Edenton is involved is because we've been seeking new market tax credit allocation for the project, which cannot go to a municipality and needs to go through a nonprofit partner in the community in order to be utilized. The company that we're pursuing and competing for is an IT services company. So they provide IT jobs all the way from customer service support, software development, and cybersecurity work for anything back office. So their mission statement is to onshore jobs back to rural America. And we are one of those rural locations that they've identified as a potential site. The funds have been discussed, utilized for the new market tax credit allocation. Requires essentially an earnest payment to let the CDE that is offered an allocation to let them know that we're serious about moving forward with the project and working through to the closing date. The remainder of the funds will be utilized for a design, build, and pre-construction documents for the building in question, which is 211 South Broad. Additional funds will be used for the design pre-construction documents for a parking deck that would go on Court Street. That parking deck has been identified, one, to absorb the parking requirements for the business in question, and also to provide anywhere from 4 to 8 additional housing units that would border Court Street, keeping Court Street residential, but also providing workforce housing at or below the area's AMI, area median income, for at least 30%. 30% of those units will need to be allocated for workforce housing. And I'm here for any questions, or I can also open it for public comment.
Main Street,
Yeah, you go ahead.
would Main Street serve as, I guess, the property management for that location, for the housing units?
For the housing units, that has not been ironed out right now in the new market structure. Main Street, as it stands, will be operating as a Quality B, which is the entity that will own the assets for the duration of the 7-year compliance period for the new markets. At that point, what we've considered is it will dissolve, and then the assets will go back to the town, and then there'll be an option for the company to purchase the building from the Quality B. And so at that point, their option to purchase the building would be at cost. So whatever is used to acquire the building and any construction costs and soft costs acquired. So these funds would be returned back to the town at the execution of that option, and also through our fairly conservative analysis, the 10-year impact of the project will bring a net of $1.4 million, ignoring any of these upfront pre-construction costs over the 10-year period. So that's through an analysis of sales and use tax, property tax, utilities, all that stuff.
So the parking deck, though, they would also have the option?
No, the parking deck would remain a town asset at the dissolution of the market structure.
And that's a 2-level.
The current concept, yes, is 2 levels. Right now, there's 140 spaces on the back lot. We're working through the understanding of what we can do at once. There's at least a 2-phase project, at least one phase of it will be conducted in this new market structure. The second phase, we're hoping we can also complete at the same time in parallel.
Right.
The total project would turn 140 parking spaces into 223.
Correct.
Now, Chess, this project is very much so grant dependent,
Yes, sir.
and we're pulling for those grants to come through. Worst case scenario, if they do not come through, this 289 is not, there's no need for it to be spent, is that correct? Or are there some expenses that are going now? I mean, like, if project does not get off the ground, do we get this money back in a couple months if we find out in February or March that the grants were not awarded?
So the appropriation agreement is not giving Main Street, Edenton the funds. It's essentially setting up a drawdown account. So when any funds dispensed will be invoiced to the finance officer and then distributed to Main Street Edenton with appropriate invoices and checks and balances between the finance officer and Mr. Gooden. The only funds right now, we have received the $7 million new market tax credit allocation for the project, also contingent on all the other pieces of the capital stack coming together. That reservation fund, or fee is $24,500. That new market tax credit, $7 million, essentially what it shakes out to for the project is just over $1.1 million in equity, and a forgivable loan that gets forgiven at year 7 from a new market investor.
Okay, there are any other questions on this specific item? Any comments? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next, we will move to the public hearing, and we've got 3 people signed up to speak on this particular agenda item. The first one is Hal Murray. Mr. Murray, come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I come forward actually with 3 questions, not to speak for or against, but I looked through the packet there, and there were a couple questions I just didn't understand. My background is in finance, and this sounds like a very complicated financial agreement with many pivot points. But I was wondering if you could clarify for me, and probably questions that others have, would be the following 3 questions. Who or what entity will own 211 South Broad Street when the agreement for the town of Edenton and Main Street is approved? In other words, the one before us now. Wasn't clear to me who owns that. Some of the language in there wasn't clear. The second question is the $289,500 in Exhibit A. How much of that is taxpayer funded? And the last question I have is, when it's all said and done, I think perhaps 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is, and Project Teapot is complete, how much of the town money has gone into it? I was wondering about that from the expense side only. Okay, I'm sure you can adjust and justify expenses based on projected incomes. But I was just wondering from sort of bottom line, big picture kinds of questions. So those are the questions that I had based on my reading of that. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, and I think we have some answers to those questions now. The $289,500 is taxpayer funded because that is money that the town of Edenton will be putting into this project. We have a line item that has been sitting there for a number of years with that amount in it. Yes. And so that's where that will be the source of those funds.
Okay.
Secondly, Chess, I might need your help on the ownership issue, but eventually, at some point in time, the town will own it after that compliance period is up, and then potentially the company that's behind Project Teapot, if they exercise an option, will be the owner, possibly.
I'll speak to the mic just so the Zoom can hear as well. So as it stands for the new market model, the new market model requires, it is a complex financial structure, and that's why we brought on consultants early on. That was one of the main recommendations. New market consultants and a legal team that's familiar with new market tax credits, which we've hired McGuire Woods, who's done a number of projects in North Carolina, and they've just unwound a large project in Rocky Mount. I think they unwound 4 projects this year. So they've made it through the 7-year compliance and basically received the forgivable loan portion of that. So for the new market structure, the Qualic B is the owning entity, and so that's owned either through direct deed ownership or a long-term ground lease. And this model currently, Main Street Edenton is under contract to purchase 211 South Broad, and we'll own it for the. We haven't solidified what the new market structure will be and how we set up the leases and transfer the lease to the target company. But for the 10 years, expected 10 to 11 year hold, Main Street Edenton will own the property, manage the upfit, lease to the company, And then the company, at the execution of their option, will then take ownership of 211 South Broad.
Just transferred.
Yes, sir.
And then, Hal, your last question was, how much you
amount,
think we'll
how much
have?
capital from the town will be required over the duration of the project?
Yeah, that's all said and done, sort of big picture kind of.
So right now, again, we're still working through the model of that. These initial funds will help us get to the point where we can actually, once show the town's involvement in the capital stack. So then we can pursue lenders, debt service as well, source loan, to proceed with the project. At the end of the 10-year period, the 10-year impact study, the town will be net. So I guess my short answer is it's variable. We haven't identified that yet. Based on conservative estimations of debt service, the town will be net positive 1.4 million. If they, that's what I can say right now. Net positive 1.4 million to their budget and bottom line.
And if the grants are awarded, then at that point in time, we have full freedom to discuss this in more detail. And we'll have another agenda item, if that happens, to be able to explain the process even more so. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Absolutely, and we expect grant decisions. I know, so we've applied for the building reuse and the 1NC grant. The building reuse announcement is February 20th. The 1NC announcement is before the building reuse announcement, and that's done by the governor. So we expect sometime in early February. So previous announcements come a week to 2 weeks before building reuse announcements. And I am personally excited to announce the company and for sure move forward and confirm that they're coming here. It's hard not to say it out loud, but it's been about a year process. We've engaged with the company in February of last year.
Thank you for all your hard work on it, Chess. Our next citizen that has signed up is John Grant. JD, are you? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Just had a couple of questions about the parking. Did I hear correctly that you all are trying to put 4 to 8 houses on Court Street?
Yes.
Yes.
Where are they gonna go?
Townhouses, townhouse type of,
Like row houses.
yeah, row houses that fit in with the parking deck.
So they're gonna be connected to?
Yeah, the thought process is you're looking at something and you're saying, wow, look at those nice looking townhouses or row houses. You don't say, wow, look at that ugly parking deck.
Right.
Yeah, and it's another way for us to, fit in more downtown housing, more housing close to this project for, hopefully for the employees. And how many are we hoping to?
It's known as a residential liner, so it's used especially in historic communities. Yorktown, Williamsburg, Leesburg, I believe, uses it. The residential liner concept. So anywhere from, depending on how we finally break it down, it's anywhere from 10 to 12 units along Court Street.
And is the parking lot or deck gonna extend over past the lot now? Or is
No.
it just gonna be in that space?
Same footprint.
And it looked like there was gonna be a north and a south parking deck, is that?
Yes, sir.
So how is that gonna affect the businesses in that area when they go to make construction of that second deck, if not the first one?
Yeah,
I mean, has there been any kind of traffic study or impact
that,
study on that?
when we get past this stage that we're in now,
Mhm.
all this stuff is gonna be subject to our technical review committee process, where that is all worked out, and we'll come up with hopefully a workable plan, and certainly we'll share that with you. And
Would that involve another public hearing for that particular aspect of it?
we'll have to look into that. I don't know for sure, and whether it's a informal public hearing or a public hearing like we normally have here. It would certainly be our intent to spread as much information as we can to you guys.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think I can add a little bit more on that for Mr. Grant. So the original parking lot design parking structure, did take into account most of the right-of-way requirements and the egress requirements for larger vehicles to be able to come in and out freely within the space. That same initial plan is also considered when we look at the structure itself as far as the amount of space that's needed to be able to correctly enter that area, on the southern portion of that parking lot.
You'll still be able to enter into the businesses now from a roadway though, right?
Yes.
Correct.
The roadway that's there is gonna continue to be there, the one that splits the north and the south.
100 block of East Eden will
Right.
still remain on the interior of the parking area.
And that is actually a street.
And in this space behind
Yeah,
the,
and
yeah,
Norcross
behind the
Alley
building,
is
yeah.
the section of right of way that runs north to south to, West Eden,
Mhm.
East Eden, excuse me.
Mhm. Okay.
So that is the 100 block, right? It's almost like a paper street.
Okay, and John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I would ask for a little privilege here in that, and you'll see when I get into it, I need a bit more than 3 minutes, if you will.
Okay, we'll take a look at it when we get to 3 minutes, all right?
I just want to let you know ahead.
Yes, sir.
I come based on what I read in the illustrious John Herald last Saturday. And that sparked memory of conversations 30-plus years ago when myself and a few others were brainstorming about what might be done with the space north of the Hotel Hinton, east of the buildings and businesses on the east side of South Broad, and then as you cross over, moving toward East Queen, those businesses as well. In other words, that whole area that became a boon to the downtown a number of years ago, mainly when Bell Collars decided to come here, and when they got through doing everything, they said, we're gonna give you the town, the parking lot back there. So that opened up a lot of commerce. So that was the context out of which these conversations took place. In the meanwhile, we had discovered that in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, some smart folks there had done some cluster shopping centers. And what they had done was 2, 3, 4-story shopping decks. And they had made them a combination of parking and business sites. In other words, they were roughly 4 cornered, a la Dean Smith basketball. And in each corner, they built the electrical, the plumbing, all sorts of support services, because they were thinking on each corner, it was a good place for small businesses to get started, and yet traffic could flow through. And as that happened over the years, people might think, maybe I'd like to be part of this too. So the plan in Virginia was to fit in the infrastructure of electrical and plumbing, etc., for the whole thing, even though actual business sites to be rented out initially were just the corners where the traffic would come on down until it got to street level. Well, clearly that didn't happen. But those are some of the seeds of things that we're parking. And when I read in the paper that you guys were in delicate communication with the powers that be in Raleigh, I said, heaven forbid, it's all good intentions, and Humpty Dumpty gets slaughtered inadvertently, and everybody gets hurt, nobody meant it, but that's what happens. So, background is what I wanted to share with you, and why. Because I could give you more detail, but I don't know if I'm skating on ice now, or
You know,
if I'd be on ice in 10
not skating
minutes.
on ice, but I think it would be more appropriate for you to share that with me or Corey in greater detail. And we have thought somewhat along the lines that you're talking about, at least in a related sort of way. Some of the towns that we have visited have done a really, really good job of reimagining the backside of their downtown to make it more attractive in terms of landscaping, encouraging businesses to maybe rent out the back portion of their building to other people. to dress up the backside, to put dining tables back there and things like that. So we are looking at ways, hopefully in conjunction with this project, to kind of have a second downtown, a backside downtown, that people would want to come to. So we'll get together with you and talk about it in more
We just
detail.
had one thing there and real quick tonight, then, and
Okay.
that is, 30 years ago, we were also looking at the possibility that since this is gonna be roofed in, is there a way to adapt this to meet housing needs? And what that might do to definitions in terms of oversight, police work, all sorts of other things that, okay, you get needy folk, you get them out of the bad weather, they're good and decent people, they're just simply not rich. But if they got a decent place to stay and to eat and fix hot dogs, then maybe they will progress from there and do other good things for the community over time. So I would encourage you to include the housing component in your future imaginings.
Yeah. We certainly will, and thank you for your time, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I will close the public comment portion of this agenda item at this time and go into town council questions, answers, or deliberation, excuse me. Anybody have any comments, questions on this? It's something we previously discussed at the last meeting and knew we would have this vote coming before us tonight. Not seeing any further questions.
I just have two real quick.
Yeah, okay.
How many grants did you say were pending right now, Chuck?
Say that again?
How many grants are pending right now?
2 from the state of North Carolina Department of Commerce.
I heard you said one is February 20th, and then the other one is what again?
February 20th, and the other one is before February 20th.
Okay. Gotcha.
Expected, hopefully 2 weeks before.
So hopefully we know some good news
Hopefully
early
the next week,
February,
yep.
and the outer limit on the second good news would be February 20th. Okay? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Economic Development Funding Allocation Agreement for Project Teapot.
So moved.
Have a second? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of entering into this funding allocation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agreed upon that. The next matter is agenda item E, which is a memorial bench request. And I'm gonna hand this over to Corey to give us more information on this.
Thank you, Mayor. On November 25th, we received an official request for a memorial bench from the families, or the family and friends of Aiden Chase Radke. Aiden was a native of Edenton and passed away earlier in 2024 at a very young age of 7. If you remember, excuse me, Aiden was the son of Chris and Melissa Radke, both, and started raising their families here in Chowan, and worked both here in Edenton, between the town and the Chowan County Government Agency, both in very active roles. Chris was with us at the Edenton Fire Department as an engineer, and if you remember, Melissa was the tax assessor for Chowan County. Since November, our billing clerk, Jessica Combs, her and our public works director have been working very closely with the family to consider what kind of options were available, and ultimately to seek approval for a memorial bench request at the Colonial Park playground area. When we had discussions with the family, there were 2 options that they had considered, which we'll go into detail a little bit more when Jessica gets here to speak with us. She's going to share a little bit. But anyways, we've been working with 2 former employees on this. Jessica, you want to chime in and give us a little bit more background?
So we had 2 locations that we had looked at for this memorial bench. It's the water side of the playground park area, and then the second option was adjacent to the memorial bench that's already there by the zip line. I discussed with David, and the first first option is the best option for the memorial bench.
And Public Works did confirm that, we walked this down and took a look, at the area, and when we say, it's the south entrance, along the playground area. What's unique with this, request is that they are requesting more of a memorial style bench, similar to the one that is currently there at the zip line, with respect to, the FM Parker, bench that's there, more of a granite style versus what we've seen before with some of the, metal requests where we've been actually replacing these. I did have a conversation with David, and we are recommending that council approve the first location, or consider the first location, just because there's a lack of one there. And I think upon approval, we'll stay in communication with the family. We've already, established some pricing, or tried to get some pricing, around this, but they are planning on fundraising to help get this bench in place.
I just go with it.
I have a question. How would the location of the bench affect the future layout of the park?
It shouldn't. We've tried to keep this, the two playground areas unchanged in some of the upfits that we had, and particularly for this one, it is a lot closer to the fence area that we have there now. And we didn't see any changes in the layout plan, particularly this area. That's what makes it even more favorable, knowing that long term that it would stay in place once erected.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we,
Okay, do we-
approve the bench at the, first location. that
Do we have a second?
Dave.
Second.
All in favor of the memorial bench?
I do have a question. Will you have a dedication ceremony at some point?
Yes, we would like to.
Good.
We would like to have that by the first, anniversary. So by May the 23rd, we would like to have that done and dedicated.
We would.
And can y'all make sure that we get
Yeah,
notice of that? There was
yeah, he
one
knows, yeah.
in 2024
Right.
that somehow we didn't get notice of, and I looked, it was across the street from my office, and I looked out and wondered what all the commotion was, and I didn't know anything about it, and I think if we approve it and,
Yep, we can do that. That's not a
we ought to support it by our presence.
Yep, you can do that, Mayor.
All right, so we have a motion second, all in favor of the memorial bench, request in honor and memory of Aiden Chase Radke, located, near the walkway for the south entrance for the playground area at Colonial Park. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that request carries.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Jessica. The next agenda item is agenda item F. This is a work authorization number 20-03 for the Northeastern Regional Airport Runway 1-19 paving and lighting project. The work that is being authorized, if this passes, is entirely grant funded and does not come out of the coffers of the town of Edenton. The services that will be provided under the work authorization include project formation, grant administration and management, and the design and bidding for the project. Is there anything else I need to add, Corey?
No, not Mayor.
I would entertain a motion to authorize the work to proceed on this particular project. We've got a motion by Councilman Bond. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we've got the work authorization for that. The next agenda item is agenda item G, which is related to agenda item F, and it's just to recognize the budget amendment for the work authorization. As I previously stated, this funding is 100% grant funding, and we need to amend the budget to recognize the $58,220 in proceeds that will be coming in. Is that correct, Council?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, it is.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
I just got a comment. I think we need to always remember how much hard work it takes to get these grant funds, and Corey and his team and the airport board, and I mean, all the energy it takes to get all this free money, we seem to get a lot of. So thank you.
That's a good point. Okay, do we have a motion in favor of the budget amendment?
So moved.
You got a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of this budget amendment to recognize these incoming proceeds, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That budget amendment carries. That concludes our special meeting portion of our agenda, so we'll move from the special meeting to our committee meetings. We only have one committee meeting tonight, that's the administrative committee, chaired by Councilman Millers. Craig?
Mayor, we just have one item, customer service policy update, section 3 of the services order dates. Department heads of both Town Public Works Department and the Electrical Department are requesting to expand the number of days to complete service orders for customer needs from 2 days, Tuesday and Thursday, to 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Both David Myers and Hunter Chamberlain say their respective departments currently have the ability to make this happen. The town manager is in agreement with this change to the customer service policy. Administrative committee recommends forwarding this policy change request to full council at our next meeting.
Okay, and this is a positive change for our customers. There'll be more days available for them to have service orders. Okay, we'll move that on to the February 11th full meeting unless anybody has any objection. Okay, we'd like to thank the public for coming. We'd like to thank all of you that commented tonight. We always appreciate you being here and always appreciate your comments. Next, we are going to have to move into closed session. The purpose of the closed session is twofold: to consult with our town attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege regarding a pending lawsuit. That lawsuit is identified as file number 22 CBS 98, filed here in Chowan County Superior Court, and is captioned as United Daughters of the Confederacy and Others versus the Town of Edenton, and also to consult with the town attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege regarding a pending lawsuit identified as file number 25 CVD 0000004-200, and that is captioned as John Shannon and Others versus the Town of Edenton. The statute that we propose to go into closed session under is NCGS 143.318.11.3. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Got a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of going into closed session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So at this time, we do move to closed session, and thank you very much for being here.